Build high for happiness. If you've been watching ChinnyVision for a while, then you will know an object of my childhood fascination was the Amsoft Winter 1985, Spring 1986 catalogue, full of pages of games that you could own, all published by Amstrad's own software house, Amsoft. And frankly, most YouTube channels only regard Amsoft as being a company who gave away those free games with the 464, Oh Mummy, Bridget, Galactic Plague, and the narrative says all Amsoft games are rubbish. Well, you and I know that's not true. Amsoft put out over 100 games, and everything from Lords of Midnight and Sorcery Plus right the way down to the depths of 3D Invaders. And there are games in this catalogue that to this day I've still never played. Kind of saving them for this, really. So today we're going to look at Catastrophes, published by Amsoft and coded by Andromeda Software. The listing is beneath Tombstone with the new release blank screenshots. So exciting, we haven't got the screenshots yet. So the listing says you have been contracted to take charge of a building site in the middle of the North Sea. With only the company helicopter at your disposal, you must construct your building to withstand any surprises Mother Nature may throw your way. Intriguing. Of course, this is the 1980s. The North Sea was a terribly exciting place. You think I'm joking? We get a soap opera set in the North Sea.
My wife got in her car to drive to her mother's. The brakes failed at a crossroads and she was hit broadside by a lorry doing 70. When they finally cut her out of the wreck, she was in so many pieces they couldn't put her back together again. Just like Humpty Dumpty.
We sent Shirley Bassey to the North Sea. And even the sainted Bucks Fizz went to sing on an oil rig, so the North Sea is terribly exciting. So we'd load this up on my 6128. The generic Amsoft loading screen awaits, given that there's a please wait screen there. Yep, there we go, but it's got some bricks on there. Here's the instructions, basically it's what the Amsoft listing says, but you'll be awarded points for each block placed together with a bonus for each story constructed. Your building must withstand, 2 words, hurricanes, electric storms, earthquakes and floods, all of which will hinder your progress. First day, your target is 8,000. We're going to make 8,000 points. Right. Okay, that's me on the right, the yellow helicopter. That's a very low-level music playing. I'm trying to pick up that block, which is, I think, what I've got to... Oh, there's a plane flying overhead. I'm having trouble picking up my block. I'm seem to be playing against the computer. Does that impede me? Do I need to beat him? I'm trying to pick up my block. Come on, pick up the block. Pick up the block. How do I do this? The manual doesn't tell me how to pick the block up. Do I run over it? Do I hover above it? Oh, I picked it up. Right, okay. Right, do I place it down here? Presumably, there's sound effects. Is that wind coming? I lost control of my helicopter there, then the wind came. I've dropped my block in the scene, lost points. I think I lost points there, yeah. I've got 4 helicopters. I think the time's denoted by the sun going from left to right across the North Sea. Famously, you can see both sides of the North Sea, and there is a giant... Let's be kind and say it's a lighthouse. Yeah, I've dropped that in the sea again. I'm not very good at this. I need 8,000 points. I've only got 5,000 points. Right, so you get 500 if you create a new highest point. Oh, that's what it means, yeah, each new story. Okay, over the 64. All these versions, and we'll see the Spectrum shortly, are coded by a Hungarian software house. Quite a history behind this, that it was possible to use a Hungarian code, so here we go. And they were incredibly cheap. Domark, I believe, used them to do one of the Bond games. Right, I'm on the right again. I'm not sure what the point of there being a computer player is, or if there is a 2-player mode. because I can't seem to find one either on this version or the CPC. Oh, no, again, it got lined up. So I'm the little green helicopter, greeny blue helicopter on the right. There's no target score on the 64 here. And the sun is going from right to left. Should these planes be flying around so low above buildings? Oh! You went through my rotor blades, but didn't seem to make any difference. So basically... Oh, it's getting darker. The score is by the amount of stories you've got on the 64. So you just do need to indeed build high for happiness. So I've lost control. What's going to happen? Some kind of weather-related event. Wind, because the clouds went past quite fast. No. It's going dark. Thunderstorm. Oh, I wonder what's going to happen. It's going to hit the highest point on my building and knock it out. Yeah, is it going to... What's happening? Oh, I've lost a part of my building. Right, okay, I had to repair that damage there, aren't I? I see the fighter jets are back. Why is he flying around so much? Oh, right. Do I land? No, that doesn't work. So I have to rebuild the story I've lost. My helicopter's gone off the screen again, so there's going to be some more weather. More weather coming. Oh, it's an earthquake! The North Sea, famous for earthquakes, of course. Spectrum version, and you get the instructions in dual Hungarian and then English. And to select your level, you have to wait until it says amateur or professional and then press fire. So, yeah, this is looking a bit more basic in all senses on the Spectrum. And so far, it's utterly lethargic and slow. And by the looks of it, it is 2-player and 2-player only, so you can play against each other, but there's no AI on that left-hand helicopter. Right, I dropped my block there, so back I go. It's very slow. Now, if you hold down fire, you can see what's happening here. My helicopter moves a lot faster. The problem is that it becomes incredibly imprecise. So, and if you hold fire at the wrong time over a block, then suddenly you will drop the block you're holding and it becomes very messy. So, why it just doesn't move at one speed like the CPC and Spectrum versions, I have no idea. The Spectrum version is very basic and, well, very poor compared to the other two. Back on the Amstrad, where things are much faster and easier and just generally nicer to look at. Music chatters away in the background in a jolly fashion at a very low level. And I've already... My target scores on the top menu bar there, 8,000. I've got 8,400. Some bad weather is at 9,600 now. Some bad weather is about to happen. It's probably going to be a thunderstorm. Interestingly, due to the way the C64 only scores on the amount of stories you have, if there's bad weather and it knocks something off the top, your score obviously massively drops. Whereas on the CPC, your score will continue to climb because it's proper scoring and not just on the stories, if you see what I mean. Second day, your target for today is 11,000. These targets seem to be hard-coded in, because if you look, I've already got 10,000 anyway, so I don't need to do much to reach the next level now. Consequently, it becomes, I wouldn't say easy, but there's not a huge amount of challenge there until the disasters become so frequent you basically can't achieve the scores. And incidentally, while it appears you're playing against the computer and there is no second player option on the menu screen on the Amstrad version, or come to think of it, the other two versions, I was reading the Amstrad computer user review and they say if you're on the menu screen and you've got an Amstrad JY2 joystick, if you press fire on joystick 2, you go into two-player mode, so you can play against each other, which on the upside is fantastic because you can try and get the scores against each other. On the downside, I've checked the game's instructions and there is no reference, and indeed the Amstrad computer user review mentions they couldn't see it in the instructions either. I'm making something akin to Battersea Power Station here, although most of the constructions you make in this game are more akin to the Norbrecht Castle. So my score is currently 11,600, 12,800. Oh, so you get quite a good score for increasing the amount of stories you have. Oh, that's wind. C64, my high score is currently 9. The game was published by of course, I've mentioned probably a couple of times the game was published by Amsoft on the CPC and coded by Andromeda Software, but on the Spectrum and C64 the game is published by Mirrorsoft. Oh, the water's rising! The water's rising! Is that Venice? So what's the purpose of the water rising? Is it just a flood? You are at sea. Is it the melting polar ice caps? Oh. Let's keep on building. It's still rising, still rising. There's a tiny amount of leeway in the lineup, not much, literally 1 pixel. Zone 4. Construct your building strong enough. Catastrophes try to damage your tower. Pick and place fast and wisely. Oh, I can... Okay. Oh, it's all kind of gone. The music's gone. Oh! Well, I thought I'd been hit there, but I hadn't. Oh. Right, so it's going to happen. Everything's happening really fast all of a sudden. Line up. I just need to survive, well, get higher than the computer. But really, this is what the game is from now on. My high score's 37. You just got to keep on building because the sea continually rises until one of you loses. But this can kind of go on forever. Back on the Amstrad. I'm not sure what the purpose is. The manual makes no reference to there being a 2-player, so I'm not even sure why there is. Why couldn't just have one big island and just have this one player? And we keep building on 18,000. And like I said earlier, the lightning will hit the highest point, so that's handy because I can just build my tower again and keep on going. It's quite a jolly little game. I've found myself playing this for half an hour at a time and I cannot analyse what I find so satisfying about it because a lot of it is slightly fiddly positioning and not being able to get into the right place. You'd hope things would click into place a bit more, but they don't. You've got 1 pixel leeway vertically and that's it. So you have to be dead on lined up. See, look at me now trying to line up. Oh, I've dropped that there. And eventually when you fail, you'll get a newspaper headline telling you how many disasters you have survived. You've seen me playing the amateur mode. There's also professional modes in the game. Here it is on the CPC. You can see it is the same thing, but just much, much faster. Catastrophes on the C64 and CPC at least is a rather satisfying game. I'm struggling to identify why. It is just that little bit different. You get to build something. Okay, once you've worked out the game's strategy, you can just keep on doing it. And as I pointed out, that scoring on the Amstrad version is hard-coded in. So for the first 3 levels at least, there isn't a significant amount of challenge. But it's all rather enjoyable. The Spectrum and the CPC have the same scoring mechanisms, and I have to say it works better than the C64, which on that version is a little bit odd because initially the game is exactly the same until you realise that scoring is different, and then you end up with this loop of just having to build the highest tower and keeping on and keeping on and keeping on, and essentially from what I can see, forever. There's also a nice tune on that C64 version that burbles away in the background, much like the Amstrad version, and both of them have smooth sprites and are nice and colourful and are enjoyable. And isn't it rather a poor show that a game that has a 2-player mode on the Amstrad doesn't actually mention it in the instructions or the title screen? It's a 2-player mode in secret. The Spectrum version, no, I don't know what's going on here. The weird control method, holding down fire to make the helicopter go fast compared to the slow precision mode. I can see why they've got a precision mode, because it's fiddly positioning the blocks, but really the Amstrad and C64 versions don't seem to need them. Yes, there's minor niggles about that positioning, but not to that extent. And of course the game looks so much more simplistic on the Spectrum. Is it an older game on that system? I can't see the dates, but it just feels far, far older and more basic. Like so many games in the Amsoft catalogue, this is an obscure title that turns out to be quite a lot of fun, all things considered, and I can recommend you give it a try either on the CPC or the C64.